Hi everyone. I'm really tired and really foggy. So apologies if the coherence isn't where it typically would be in this episode. But today I wanted to talk about alignment. I don't think I've ever actually spoken about this. I may have mentioned it here and there throughout the years. But it's been something that I've noticed myself bringing up around my friends or people I've been speaking to, like conversations I've been having recently. I've been speaking to people a lot and using the word alignment specifically a lot recently. So I guess maybe first I'll start by talking about what I believe alignment to be, and then we'll just go from there and see where this goes. I believe alignment to be something that isn't physically tangible. It's not a measurable or quantifiable thing. It's energetic, I would say. So if you struggle or are a person that struggles to comprehend more abstract concepts, this might be something that you struggle with, or has kind of maybe been a repeating pattern of maybe like misunderstanding in your life. But for me, I feel like I would like to hope that I have quite a good grasp on certain concepts that aren't super tangible. And I think alignment is something that I am quite aligned with. That was really bad. Like that. I'm sorry. Like I'm so sorry. I'm so tired. However, I think alignment for me, the easiest way that I can explain it is in relationships. And I don't believe it's limited to relationships. I think it's applicable to every aspect of your life, whether that's career or possessions or relationships or finances or opportunities, like any avenue, travel even. Alignment plays a considerable part in that. And I think for me, the reason that I lean so heavily on alignment, and I think that it's so important to understand as a concept or a feeling, I guess, is that things don't fall into place for you. Okay, let me reword that. I'm trying to think of a way to word this. Trying hard doesn't make things fall into place. Alignment does. And when I was younger, this was a really hard concept for me to grasp as someone that tried really hard at things or with people or whatever it was. And I think there's this myth that trying hard equals alignment, or that they are mutually exclusive. I have another podcast on I don't chase, I attract. And I think these conversations are somewhat interlinked. I don't believe in I don't chase, I attract, because I think a lot of the time that's just code for spiritually bypassing. Listen to that episode if you want to hear more about that. I'm not going to touch on it too heavily, but I do think it's an important thing to mention here. But yeah, so I used to live my life a lot, trying to kind of put puzzle pieces together that didn't fit. I'm also not trying to be like super metaphorical here, but obviously explaining something that isn't tangible is kind of hard to do in a way that isn't metaphorical, so forgive me if this episode is kind of cheesy. But you'll know alignment if you've ever met someone and off the jump they've become your best friend, or there's that instant click is a form of alignment. That feeling of like, I feel like I've done this 100 times before. People have this with certain people that are like gifted in a sport or in an instrument, and this is where the whole thing of hard work comes into it, right? Because you can pick something up and feel that you've done it 100 times before, but you're still a novice. You still have to practice and put skill into it. And it's the same with relationships. You can meet someone and feel this real alignment with them, but you still don't know each other's triggers, and you don't know each other's traumas, and you don't know each other's sense of humor, but you feel like you know that person. And I think that's the main difference between the two, is that alignment is the initial click, and it's for me and in my spirituality, alignment is one of the consistent reminders that spirit is real. Not that I doubt it ever, because I don't, but in those moments where something happens and it all clicks, I'm reminded that I'm where I'm meant to be. And like, again, I'm sounding cheesy, but there's really no way to explain this without sounding cheesy. But it makes every failure worth it, because you think back to, the butterfly effect. Every choice, even if they were bad ones, has led you to that moment where everything inevitably clicks. And it makes you feel like all of those mishaps or accidents or mistakes or, times where you felt stupid or silly or inferior, whatever it is. And again, apply this to anything. This can be an instrument, or this can be a person, or this can be moving wherever, like whatever it is. All of those things that felt like they weren't going your way are kind of just indicators of you being on this path, right? And I'm very much a believer in the kind of the path, right? Like, I think our lives are predetermined. Like, I don't worry about what I'm doing or where I'm going, because I believe that it's all figured out for me. All I have to do is just live my life. And if you are slightly more cynical in your thinking, or you choose to believe a different ideology, I can understand in that essence why alignment might not be something that you take as seriously, or it's just, nice when it happens, but you don't kind of view it as this like whole world thing. Whereas for me, it's a very all-encompassing experience when I have those moments of something clicking, because it kind of just reinforces for me that narrative that I'm safe, or I'm going to be okay. Especially as I come to approach my mid-20s, obviously, I think a lot of people around this age start to think, like, what the fuck am I doing? And I think alignment is the one thing that keeps me in check, knowing that I will meet the right people, and I will find the right opportunities, and I will go to the right places. And, it's that trust. And I think the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I'll give you an example that I've been feeling recently. So when I moved here, I got on the apps, right? As a way to like meet people. And I moved to Australia, by the way, if you don't know. So I came here. I have a few friends, but I didn't want to basically, I wanted to make my own friends and, explore connections outside of like my friends' connections, because I like to have I like to have a lot of different types of friends. I'm not the sort of person that likes to have one big group, because, I don't know, I like to have a lot of different types of friends. I like to have a lot of different types of friends. I like to have a lot of different types of connections. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people in regards to alignment is to know when you're barking up the wrong tree. And I think I find when you rely on one group of people, if something goes wrong with that one group and then you don't have anyone else to go to outside of that group, that's when things get claustrophobic and overwhelming and stressful. So I like to have independent friends. Anyway, so you get on the apps, whatever. And obviously on the apps, there's a lot of people trying to date you. And like, I'm not closed off to dating. I'm not like, it is what it is, you know? And Joe, my best friend, said to me the other day, he was like, you are just having the worst luck recently. Like, you know, you have one conversation with someone, it goes really well, and then the next thing you know, they're a convicted criminal, or they're a narcissist, like blatantly a narcissist, or quite commonly I've found here, they're a racist or a homophobe or transphobic, or, you know, and you're like, like, you know, and obviously you don't know, obviously digitally, like what the situation is. And it's so funny because when I came here last time, so little backstory for you, when I moved to, I've been to Australia before. I came here last year on a trip and it all went a bit tits up because Joe got stuck in Thailand. So I was in Australia on my own. And the first girls that I met here pretty much became my best friends. We spent every day together. We like just had the best time while I was here. We just clicked and it just was perfect. And I was so happy and I like, you know, was so content. And it's so funny because it was like, if I'd had the luck then that I'm having now, I don't want to use the word luck because that makes it seem like I'm not lucky, which isn't true. But if I'd had the situation then that I'm having now, I would have probably never moved to Australia, because part of the reason that I moved here was because of them and the experiences that they gave me and that we shared together. We forged this bond that was so like genuine. And I don't think I've ever in such a short amount of time connected with two girls in a way where like, honestly, like they almost reached like familial status within like 3 weeks. And it was like, honestly insane. But if, say, the experience that I've had now, and this is obviously separate from all the friends that I already have here, but in the scope of like finding my own friends independent of the friends that I already had here, it's like, it's literally been like, I don't know, what's the saying? Beating a dead dog, or like, it can't be. Something, you know, where it's like, you're trying and you're trying and you're trying and it's not working. It's like, you're clearly barking up the wrong tree. So maybe my issue is like, I downloaded Bumble for friends, right? And I realized like, why am I like judging, like to swiping people like left and right that I want to be friends with? Like, I don't know, like it's, I can't judge you based on your looks. Like, I don't judge my friends based on their looks. Like, what the fuck do I do? Like, this is just pointless. And it's like so weird that I'm in the exact same place, doing the exact same things as I was last time I was here. However, the experiences have been completely different. And this isn't to say that I don't have great friends here. Like, I have amazing friends here. But like I said, obviously, I just... all my friends are kind of in one group, and I don't really like that. Sometimes it makes me feel a bit like claustrophobic, and I feel like the whole point is that previously, like the alignment that I'm discussing here was that I was given the gift of that experience with those two girls to set me on the path of moving to Australia. Like, and also, I'm not trying to say that like moving to Australia is some kind of like niche spiritual path, because like every next bitch moves to Australia. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am literally like one of the fucking litter at this point. But for me, had I not had that experience, it probably wouldn't have been something that I would have considered. And it's like, you know, got me thinking like, okay, so that experience was a click. And since then, there's not been that click. And like meeting someone new, I mean. And so it's like, you know, maybe it's got me thinking. Maybe the point now isn't to click, right? Like on a relationship basis. Maybe it's to click in a career sense, or in a hobby sense, or in a personal development sense, whatever it is. So it's like me constantly like barking up this tree of like trying to find new connections. Maybe that's not the point. And this is where kind of the difficult thing comes in, where maybe if you're not as like spiritually knowledgeable, and I'm not trying to say that I'm like this fucking guru, it's like Mahatma Gandhi that knows everything and whatever, but what I am trying to say is that I have experience in understanding when something isn't working for me, and I don't like constantly doing something that's not yielding me any results. I think it's pointless. So it's like I'm constantly doing this, and then I get annoyed when it doesn't work out, and then it almost seems to be progressively getting worse. Like the people that I am meeting are getting progressively worse, to the point where I genuinely believe this is an omen for me to like wake the fuck up, because like it's not working. So I made like a decision tonight. I was like, right, I'm just going to shift my focus. I'm going to shift my focus away from meeting new people and try and shift my focus on something else. And I don't know what that new focus is going to be yet. I don't know what it is, but I think a big part of like trusting the path, I guess, not to sound like woo-woo, but I'm quite a woo-woo person, but is to just trust that it will come. Like making the I don't know, what would you call it, like mind connection that something's not working for you is like the first step, you know, like thinking to yourself, okay, I'm not happy doing this thing, or this isn't yielding results for me, or whatever, like I was saying. That's like the first step. And then from there, I believe spirit brings things to you so that you can find the next step. So now I've made this like realization or whatever. We'll wait and see. Maybe I'll update you in a few weeks and tell you that I've got really into like tree climbing or something. But basically the point that I'm trying to make, that was a really long-winded example of basically how to just say that like I haven't met anyone since moving here that I've clicked with on that like alignment feeling level. But the I feel like the thing with alignment is that there's no, it's quite based on divine timing. Like it's something that isn't bound by like I said earlier, it's not measurable. You can't choose when something works for you. Like I got really lucky when I moved here, and I found my apartment and my job within like 2 days of moving here. And I believe that was a click for me, because it was like, okay, you're meant to be here because you've set yourself up so easily. Like you're so happy here, you're so content. And I think I kind of think that alignment hunting can kind of be an addiction, because the feeling when you click with someone, or you click with something, or an area, or an opportunity, whatever, it's a rush, like it's a dopamine release, and like that isn't something that you can become addicted to. And I think a big part of maybe what I need to learn for myself is that like chasing those things kind of defeats the whole point, because they come when they come, and like that's kind of counterintuitive, or counterproductive to the whole point. And I was actually speaking to someone the other day, and we were having a conversation about something, and I can't remember how we got onto this topic of conversation, but they were talking about good and bad people. And I said, I don't really believe in good or bad people. And I know that there's always going to be someone that's like, but what if you murdered a whole family and blah, 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 blah. And like, yeah, I get what you're saying. But like, just stick with me on this, right? I don't really believe in good and bad at all. I think that a lot of things, and this is the way that I described it to this person, is, you know, when you know someone and you think they are a major prick, and they have friends, and they have really solid relationships. And I used to have friends like, well, no. I used to know people that I thought were just like the worst, right? I thought they were just horrible people. But they had friends, like good, genuine, solid friends. And I always remember thinking, why the fuck do you like them? Especially if that person, in my opinion, was relatively sound. I was like, how do you not see it? Or if, you know, a lot of girls I think will relate to this, like when you're younger and you kind of are like kind of friends with someone, but like also there's a lot of things you don't like about them. And then it gets to the point where like those things come out and you guys have an argument, but then your friend stays friends with them. And you're like, why are you even friends with them? Because they're a horrible person. And they're like, oh yeah, but you know, whatever. And it's like, how do you not see that those like that person's horrible? Because I can see all the ways that they're horrible and you can't, and I'm right and you're wrong, and they're a bad person and I'm a good person. It's like very black and white thinking, right? Especially when you're younger. Like it's when you're younger, your brain isn't like competent enough to understand the grey areas or, you know, nuance of a situation. And when I was talking to this person the other day, I put it down to good and bad people is again just a form of black and white thinking, right? And what it really comes down to is alignment, you know, alignment of morals and values and perspectives and life experiences. Because I have friends that have done quote unquote bad things, right? And I have friends that have done good things. But, you know, potentially the quote unquote bad, air quotes here, the person that had done bad things may have much more advanced levels of emotional maturity, be able to, you know, engage in a difficult conversation in a way that doesn't cause a fight or an argument in a much better way than someone who has lived like a perfectly Puritan life would. And to me, that makes me far more aligned with the quote unquote bad person, and therefore far more enjoyable to be around. And that's, I think, the point that I was trying to make to this person when I was talking to them about not believing in good or bad people, and it's more about the alignment. And this is kind of where I take away from the alignment being about the click, because that is a part of it. But in this regard, this secondary topic that I'm speaking about now, it's more about seeing who you are and seeing what you identify with, and, you know, seeing traits in other people that you like or resonate with, or, you know, you have similar experiences or understandings or outlooks on certain things. You know, it's like if you are a thief and you hang around with a bunch of churchgoers, they're going to make you feel like a bad person. I don't like the way I worded that. You may feel like a bad person because of their beliefs, but if you hang around with a bunch of other thieves, you're not going to question it. So that's kind of the thought process behind what I mean when I talk about that, when people, you know, it's like alignment in the sense of, and again, I don't think alignment is tied to anything moral or like value based. It's just a sense of who you are and what you stand for and what you are looking for and presenting out, kind of like a mirror, right? You know, they say that the matrix kind of acts as, okay, this is like going to become a little bit EV 2021 acid brain, mushroom brain for a minute. But you've kind of got to imagine yourself as a computer. And the matrix is, the computer has created a matrix around that. Imagine the computer is the only thing in the universe, the only thing that exists. The matrix has created, no, sorry, I'm so sorry, guys. The computer has created a matrix around the computer, which kind of acts as like a holographic, whatever it is, and it's kind of like a mirror. And stimulus comes in to the computer and gets fed back out. And that is how we perceive things, right? So that's why two computers, like brains, right, will receive the same stimuli completely differently. Stimulus, I don't know. And that's why our realities are also different, even though we may have been through similar things. And I think where relationships in terms of alignment come into this is kind of down to the fact that we're all working off of our own internal logging system, right? Like the data goes in, we log it, we push it back out in whichever way we choose to, whether that's like a conversation or walking somewhere or just like taking an action, whatever the action is. So, and then from there, the matrix changes because we, may have moved location, or we may have had a fight, or we may have clicked close on our browser. Like we took an action, whatever the action is, we hung up something in our wardrobe. That action changed the physical thing which we see, the visual representation, which is the matrix, which is what we see. I'm sorry, this is kind of, read the CIA files if you want to learn more about this, because I am, one, not competent enough right now to discuss this, and two, far too tired to be in a place to discuss the matrix and the fucking breaking the fourth wall or the fifth wall or whatever it is. But so in regards to our alignment, if we use the computer model as our theory here in regards to alignment, we kind of only bring in what is already in alignment with our computer model. And this is very hard for a lot of people to comprehend. And I think a big reason this is very hard for a lot of people to comprehend is because we shouldn't have access to as much as we do. And I actually had this conversation with someone the other day when I was talking about the apps. I was saying, I shouldn't be speaking to or have interacted with as many people as I have, because we would have never met organically. And the same goes for social media. The same goes for actually just all kinds of media. It doesn't matter how many people you interact with on a daily basis. But I think the media and having access to the internet has skewed our awareness of things, because we are now like hyper aware. So it's like, I think a lot of people can't comprehend that it's up to us what we let in, because I think there's a lot of moral hysteria around that. It's like, well, I didn't choose, I'm not aligning with Israel, for example. I'm not aligning with the British government and what they're doing to trans people. I'm not aligning with the ICE raids in America. Whatever it is, I think that's like where people think like, oh, because it's like, well, I also didn't align to meet with that horrible person the other day. And I think in response to, maybe actually that last example is not relevant, but in response to media and the internet, I don't believe that we are designed to be able to process that amount of information, which is why a lot of us experience sensory overload. A lot of us are like constantly burnt out or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like insignificant because we are so used to this mass amount of everything, right? Like just constant stimuli everywhere that our brains are like, oh my God, it's too much. But if you take your daily interactions that you have at work, or take your phone out of it, take the TVs out of it, take any kind of music, whatever, take that all away. Just your day-to-day interactions, people you meet on the street, people you serve at work, people you see on the tram home, whatever it is, that is a reflection of your matrix, right? And, if you have an encounter with someone that is particularly bad, I think people that don't have that understanding or that awareness are like, well, I'm not anything like that, so why am I seeing that? And it's like, I think this is where the confusion comes in, because likeness is not the same as alignment. Alignment is actually like not the same as anything at all. It's like its own standalone thing, right? And I think people conflate alignment with everything, right? They conflate it with trying hard, they conflate it with likeness, they conflate it with like morals and values and all of these things. And it's none of those things at all. And it's like, alignment, you can be like, I remember a few years ago, I met this guy and we just clicked. Like I've never gelled with someone the way that me and him gelled in like ever. However, it was genuinely like the worst 2 months of my life. Like it was like really catastrophically bad, like a really bad time in my life. And our relationship was a very big part of why it was so bad. And look, like at the time I was like, I don't understand it, we're so aligned and I feel so connected to you and I feel like I can't be away from you and we have all these things in common and whatever it is, but like I think you're horrible and you think I'm horrible and we like all these things are going wrong, but then it all goes right and then it all goes wrong and whatever. And that was one of the first times in my life where I'd experienced alignment in a negative way. And this is where it gets complicated, because this is where I feel like everything that I've said now just isn't relevant. So it's almost like all alignment is just progression of you towards the next thing or a better version of that thing. If you take it for what it is and don't put it on a pedestal or glamorize it, or if you read it plainly, blankly as what it is, I think people get very whisked away. When you click with someone, it's very easy to idealize that person or put that person on the pedestal or think that they're the best thing since sliced bread. And I've been there, like we've all been there. But do not do that. Because this period of my life, while it was one of the worst, it was single-handedly the most transformative period of my life that benefited me exponentially, right? And if I hadn't have been through that period, although it was horrible and like gut-wrenching and devastating, I wouldn't have awareness around certain things that I have now. And I wouldn't be around some of the people that I'm around now, and I wouldn't have let go some of the things that I let go during that time, because there was no reason for me to let it go. And it's kind of like, that's the thing with alignment. I feel like I've said that so many times, but that is the thing with alignment, is that it kind of can sometimes present as like a bad experience. And like this is kind of goes back to, that TikTok theory of like the burnt toast theory, where it's like something might seem bad, but it's all happening for you. And I think when you make that mindset shift, I can tell this podcast is coming to a close now, but when you make that mindset shift of things are happening for you, not to you, not to sound like every next bitch on TikTok right now, but it really is a game changer. It is. And once I made this mindset shift, I felt so much more calm. And because I felt calmer, I stopped worrying so much, and I stopped chasing so much, and I stopped fighting so much, and things just kind of started to float. And I think a big thing in like the spiritual community is this concept of surrendering, right? And it's very hard, as I am very much someone that is like a go-getter. Like, if I like you, I will, like, you'll know about it. If I want the job, I'll be in there asking. Like, I'm not someone to wait for opportunities to come to me. And I think that was, the concept of surrender was a hard one for me to grasp when I was younger, even up to a few years ago. And I think the main thing I learned about surrender is it's not about physically surrendering in the sense where you don't try, which is where I think a lot of that, I don't chase, I attract, I'm never going to try, you have to do everything, you have to come to me. I don't like that mindset. It's not about that. It's about surrendering to the outcome and just realizing that you really just can't control anything. And if anything, that gives you more control. Because when you realize that you don't have the ability to persuade any outcome, it gives you the ability to test so many more outcomes. Because, if something doesn't work, instead of being hung up about it for 3 weeks, you use that 3 weeks to try 300 different things, and then that kind of shifts you closer and closer, and you might find a new thing. And, I stopped podcasting for a little bit because I lost my voice, and then I started journaling and I started writing, and I've really realized that I really like writing now, which I wouldn't have realized if I hadn't lost my voice. But losing my voice wasn't fun, it wasn't enjoyable, and I had to take time off work for it. And it's that was annoying and it was jarring, and I was like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? But what new skill? Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean? So it's further and further into my alignment. And it's losing my voice was part of my alignment. And another thing, alignment can be personal. It doesn't have to be external. I think I've spent a lot of time in this episode talking about external alignment. And I think a lot of alignment, actually, I do think all alignment is internal. But obviously, typically, whether it's a person or a place or whatever, those things are typically external. But it can be so solely internal, and I think I will leave you with this. Don't limit your idea of what you believe alignment to be to just clicking with someone. Because I think I spent a lot of time at the start talking about clicking with someone, and I do think that's relevant, but do not leave it at that. Thank you. I really feel like I really enjoyed this episode. I actually think this might be one of my better episodes that I've made in a really long time, and I'm really proud of it. So thank you guys for listening. Love you guys. See you soon.